Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'll be sharing 7 mental models in Notion to help you in 2025. This might feel a little rudimentary or basic to some who have been using Notion for a while now, but in this video, I kind of want to share the mental models that I'm working off of for the last 4 or 5 years and some standards that have remained constant even with Notion's ever-changing landscape and continuous updates. Some of this might feel like review to some of you, but this YouTube channel is meant for accessibly learning Notion. And so this is sort of a listening video as opposed to a watching video. And so this is something you can sort of play in the background as you work through Notion or whatnot. I do have some simple, helpful toggles to kind of break down what I mean by each one. And if you have any questions or if you have any feedback or critique, feel free to add them in the comments. I feel like, no mental model is perfect. This has just been what's been working for me and what I've observed working with Notion clients and working within various workspaces. I think the first one we've all heard of before. I have a pretty strong stance on this. Obviously, everything in this video is my opinion, and some of them might feel duplicative or redundant, but I do feel like they are valuable in their own right based on my experience. The first helpful mental model in 2025 is avoiding template. This might feel a little backwards to some of you who thrive on using templates and whatnot, but I do think templates are made by one individual who thought that a workflow or a workspace would work for them in a specific manner. And so no template is perfect. It's not one size fits all. And I feel like the best use of templates are actually when it comes to kind of using it as inspiration or using it as a way to experiment or validate things. I think Notion templates are a really great way to build your portfolio if you have the means to do so. But I do think generating Notion template income is inconsistent, saturated, and unreliable. I think it's important to know what your goal is when you're creating templates. Is it just to showcase your work? But in my opinion, I don't think you should really be spending time creating templates. You should be spending time finding spaces where you can add value. And that means spending time forming relationships with Notion enthusiasts and growing your network so you have the opportunity to deliver client work over static, passive Notion templates. I think if you actually want to make a living using Notion, client work is better in every aspect compared to Notion templates every single time. I don't want to beat a dead horse. Water is wet. This isn't anything new. I think we've all sort of been on that Notion template journey, and we all know kind of unreliable and inconsistent feedback might be. Now, if you have a big following and people want to do exactly what you're doing and you feel like you've created something very valuable, by all means, sell templates, right? I think before people come at me with, well, you're selling a template from your YouTube channel, well, that is because it covers 40 videos, 40 tutorials, and the formulas and the logic are already built in. And so it's a rinse and repeat, plug and play Notion template system that's different from perhaps like a operating system, a project planner, a task manager, whatnot. And so I think in my previous video that I've made a strong recommendation to ignore Notion templates and whether it's worth it to be a creator. But the most worthwhile thing you can do is delivering client work. There's so many marketplaces that you can sort of offer your skills and knowledge on, but I do think starting within a close social proximity of professional relationships, personal relationships, and sort of being the purveyor of knowledge around Notion and being that sort of educational resource for and around Notion could be a good way to get your feet in the door. So number 2, start from scratch more than you think. In some cases, this doesn't apply because you're basically recreating the same set of databases or workflows that you've made in previous projects or templates or whatnot. But I think when it comes to having the option of restructuring or rebuilding something, it can often take longer than just building it from scratch and kind of reiterating it without all the mess, and to have sort of a clean slate to work off when it comes to building something. I think this applies to more than just building, but also just brainstorming or wireframing or kind of designing your workflows. I think it's easier to start from scratch more often than trying to reuse or recycle what you've already built and trying to kind of fix it or redevelop it in some ways as well. One of the benefits of starting from scratch is it makes it easier to componentize, iterate, and test. It makes it smoother for client projects and giving feedback and iterating on a sort of ongoing basis. I think with Notion templates in particular, or just Notion builds in general, It's not a one and done process, and building it is one thing, getting feedback is another thing, and testing it is another. And I think you should always try to take the feedback you receive from the users who are using it and to do something with it, because oftentimes the person creating it might not have all the context that the user might have when they sort of work within Notion, test out the workflows you've created, or just playing around with or sort of modifying anything you've already created. I think a really great model to sort of complement this start from scratch more often than you think is the Scamper model. Scamper is just an acronym for substitute, combine, adapt, modify, put to another use, eliminate, and reverse. I think this is really helpful when it comes to reviewing a more complex process and you have a lot of moving parts to consider. Does it make more sense to substitute it? Does it make sense to adapt it? Does it make sense to eliminate it? But at the very end of the day, it could just be easier to subtract it all together. And subtracting it all together also allows us to sort of start from step zero or square zero, and it can kind of help you reimagine what it could be, because there's so much could be a distraction to what needs to happen. It really depends on what you're building and how you're building it. I do think this Scamper model is helpful to keep in mind, or even have your clients or team members or whoever else is involved in the workspace to sort of identify key attributes to what might make a Notion build, system, or workflow that much more effective. The third one here is first things first. I think within Notion, there's so many things you can learn. There's so many things you can build. There's so many things you can talk about. Even when it comes to just the user experience, there's so many different ways people approach it. And so before you dig deeper, I think it's really important to take time to individualize processes, workflows, needs, team spaces, and anything else that might be relevant to the project you're working on. And I think it's important to try and focus on one thing at a time. Compartmentalizing is going to be your friend if it's a bigger project. And even if it's a small one, I think it's also helpful to just kind of break it up and focus on things one at a time. And once you've sort of been able to compartmentalize a few things, you can kind of understand what the aggregation of all those items might be and where some things might need some tweaking or modifications and so on and so forth. There can be a lot of moving parts, but being intentional about monotasking over multitasking can be a huge lift to the way that you work. In a lot of ways, these mental models might be helpful beyond just Notion, but I do think less is more, and we often forget about that sometimes. Number 4, don't over-engineer it. This is something that if you start as a Notion template creator, it's really easy to do. Just because you can create that feature, add that extra thing, doesn't mean you necessarily should. And again, it goes back to keeping it simple, stupid, and engineering it just enough to the point where people want to use it. It doesn't sort of create information overload, analysis paralysis, and it sort of takes into account the cognitive load that we have as humans and how much information we can take at any given time. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. All the bells and whistles aren't needed sometimes, and you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You can do addition by subtraction simply by just not having it. The rare cases that you might over-engineer something is if you want your client or the user to see everything that's possible that could be related to what they're looking for. But at the same time, tread carefully, because sometimes over-engineering sort of creates this false sense of hope or false realization that something could happen, when in reality, it's actually a lot more work and whatnot. And to add to this, when you over-engineer something, it usually means that there's a lot more moving parts, which also means there's a higher maintenance. And I think maintenance is something to keep in the back of your mind, especially since users can modify what you've created in a split second without realizing it. So don't over-engineer it, and I think we've all been guilty of this before, but it's something to just keep in the back of your mind, because at the end of the day, it creates more work for everybody. It can kind of lead you astray from sort of the objective or the task at hand. And again, if the user that's seeing this doesn't fully understand what's possible with Notion, it can be more of a distraction than anything else. Number 5, standardize your language. I think this is pretty straightforward. If you asked everybody on your team that uses Notion, for example, what a project was, I'd imagine that everybody has a slightly different way of describing what a project would be. I think the same thing applies with a task, and I think it generally applies with any sort of standardized terminology that might be used within your workspace, your team, or your organization. It's going to be really important to use the same language, and the language you're using verbally is the same as the language you use within Notion. A project or a task could be a database, or it could just be language we use to describe all the work we're doing. but I think in some ways it's good to sort of differentiate to reduce the dilution of language within Notion. If everything falls under one thing, then nothing falls under other stuff. Having clear definitions on everything to level set expectations and align as a team or organization can be incredibly helpful to sort of get on the same page and understand that when someone mentions task or project, they really mean this. And maybe if everything is sort of abstractly shared within your team, it might be time to add a new piece of language. If separating out different database items makes sense, make sure to be intentional with the language you use so that when you mention something in writing form, verbal form, or speaking, there is not a blurred definition for what you're working on. Learned behavior is unique from the tool. I think this is something that you learn the more that you work within Notion and Notion clients. You could build the perfect workflow or the perfect workspace or the perfect team space for a team, an individual, or so on. But if they don't understand Notion in the way that you did to build out what you created, it can sort of backfire and create problems that are completely unrelated to the tool of Notion. Instead, it becomes user error. And another analogy for this is you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Accounting for knowledge gaps and blind spots can be the root of the issue itself and not the tool. Human behavior can be predictably irrational, as Dan Ariely once said, and independent of Notion. And at the same time, it might not be the workspace or the team space or the databases that you set up, but sometimes it's a matter of changing the user behavior and sort of reshaping the habits or confidence or the navigation of using Notion. And it might make sense to sort of approach it from a user knowledge and understanding standpoint than to build something completely new in Notion. I've worked with a client in the past where we built out all the solutions that this person was hoping for, but because they never used the tool itself or didn't understand how certain functions relied on relations or filters or other automations, they kept giving feedback to me and the team that this wasn't right. But in reality, this user barely touched what we had created, hadn't experimented with the interface, and never spent the time to learn sort of what makes Notion so great and why something has been structured the way that it has. And so that had nothing to do with the tool itself and had everything to do with the individual human being that was using it. What I'm sharing isn't new. It's not profound by any means, but sometimes it's worth thinking about why might this be happening at the user level for this person but no one else. And sometimes it might make more sense to just sit down with this person virtually or in person and understand what they are doing on the screen to kind of understand why something might perceive to be not working or dysfunctional or anything else from what you're expecting the user experience to be like. And so I think there's also a tremendous opportunity here educating users about Notion and its full capabilities. And I think around this time next year, we're going to be at a point where there's so many features that Notion has released that the old educational resources and tutorials are going to have to get revamped simply because they're going to be so integrated with some of the newest features. User behavior, again, obviously we want to keep that central to anything you build, but at the same time, you don't always want to give the benefit of the doubt. All right, and this last one here, I mean, you're watching an educational YouTube channel on Notion, and so I think it's only right to end with adopting a beginner's mindset. I'm still learning stuff. I know nothing close to everything about Notion. There are always people that are better than me or skilled than me or more knowledgeable than me about all things Notion. And there's integrations, there's APIs. There's so much more to what you see already out there. And so I think it's really important to be humble and to always have a beginner's mindset and to try and learn in any space you're a part of or anything you're consuming or any person that you're interacting with. I think this extends beyond Notion. I think it's integral to the way of life, and Notion is ever evolving. And they're notorious for silently releasing features overnight. Every new feature provides an opportunity to learn something new. I think it's really unhealthy to think that you know everything. I think, in contrast, really healthy to know that you don't know everything. And so don't expect to think that you know everything because you don't. And practice makes perfect. Using Notion is like a muscle, and whether you're creating, whether you're using it, whether you're building it, it's just like anything. You have to keep consistently doing it, not just thinking about it to truly understand everything you're doing and also to be able to explain it to another person. I think it's also really powerful to be able to explain something very complicated in a very simple way. I think that is part of adopting a beginner's mindset, especially in Notion. I think at the end of the day, all these mental models, I think, extend beyond Notion. And this is sort of a different type of video, I guess, compared to some of the other ones I've been releasing. But if you made it this far, really appreciate you sticking around, listening to what I have to say. And if you want to keep building stuff, I got several playlists that you can check out. The Notion Formulas playlist is really helpful to understand what you can actually do with all the functions they have available within a singular formula property. And like I've kind of on repeat about the Notion database automations that can also take advantage of Notion formulas is very powerful as well. When you know and understand how you can start nesting formulas across buttons, through dynamic variables, through formula properties, or database automations, you can do so much more and create a glue to interact various Notion properties, create interactions, automation, workflows, and conditions that can really enhance your workspace, your workflow, and so on and so forth. Well, I feel like I could have probably done a better job organizing my thoughts, preparing for this video, but here it is. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one, and next week's video will be more formula oriented. If you think these videos are kind of a miss, let me know. If you like these videos, tell me in the comments why you liked them, and I might create some more. Something I've been thinking about and sort of playing around the idea with is having YouTube live streams. If that would be interesting to you, I'm thinking of perhaps going live on YouTube and seeing what sort of the reaction or attraction might be. And last but not least, I do have a Notion formulas and workflows cheat sheet on my Shopify store. And so that has all 40 tutorials that I've shared on this channel with the formula and the code block and sort of the logic needed to navigate those in one place. Check that out if you want. Email me with any questions at ray@notionworkflow.com, and I'll see you in the next one.